He's going to get Matewan, and that's Ted Hackney. Thank you, Ted. My regular here now on Joe Carter. Vice President. And I got to tell you folks, he listens to me preach that sermon every time I talk to him about wanting that empathy. And First Lady and Congressman, I'm going to preach a little bit longer. We want to see an amphitheater in Matewan, and that's our goal. The other goal that we have is to teach as many young people as we can the local history in this whole region. So I call him up and he listens to my sermons, and I hear that he tells some of the other boys in Local 1440, boy, she's a talker, isn't she? So you've been had. But welcome, Joe Carter, back to Matewan. President Roberts, you know you're welcome. If he's going to give you a formal introduction, you just hang on.
Thank you, Donna. And you know, indeed, it is a privilege to come back here to Matewan again. The only reason that the Queen Anger's not sitting up here is because Donna had met her here. But I do want to take a moment to thank this local 1440, for all that they do too. They help support her and be a part of this. And, it's really it's a good event, and we do need to relive our history and know where we came from. The miner's been struggling. For over 120 some years, the United Mine Workers have been trying to strive for better working conditions, health and safety. These miners that was in this battle, they were fighting for something. They were fighting for better working conditions, better pay, and a better opportunity in life. And when they organized, they had that voice. And it's people that have been predecessors of President Roberts and myself and others that made that possible for them, that gave them a voice at the workplace. And that's all they needed was a voice. They got better pay and better working conditions. A lot of people don't understand working in the mines that, hey, the water, air, everything is important. You need good air to keep the dust and the gas away. And the conditions with those, a lot of times were terrible. But these people worked during those times and in those conditions, and they survived. But they needed a voice, and United Mine Workers was able to give it to them because of the struggles of what took place here in Matewan. Also, I know Wes Harris is down here to the side, the March on Blair Mountain, and that was led by Bill Blizzard. And we've had a lot of history here in southern West Virginia, but I'll move on and introduce our next speaker. And he's a guy that he travels all over this country, speaking on behalf of working men and women. And his heritage does go back many, many years with coal miners. He has a deep, rich heritage with the coal miners. And we're proud of him in the United Mine Workers because he is actually, John L. Lewis was the newly elected president when this took place here in Matewan in 1920. And Cecile Roberts is the second longest serving president of the United Mine Workers, and I think it is a great distinction to have among working men and women. And we're proud of him. We're proud of our coal miners, and we're proud of this local. So let's get him up here, President of the United Mine Workers, President Cecile Roberts. Let's get him in here.
What it means to be the second longest serving president in the history of the United Mine Workers is I'm old. That's what that means more than anything else. Let's give Joe Carter another round of applause. He worked real hard for you. Let's give all of our dignitaries here today another round of applause. The First Lady's here, the Congressman's here, Larry's here, and our new delegate is here also, Justin Markham. He didn't get introduced. Welcome. Now, my main role here, believe it or not, is I just came to say thank you. Now, the history of this country and the history of West Virginia, the history of the UMWA is something that I take very seriously. Excuse me, but anytime I speak outside, this happens. But I think we should give this lady right here a lot of credit for preserving the history of Matewan and the history of West Virginia. She does this let's give this cast right here, these volunteers right here, for the time that they are putting in to preserve the history of West Virginia. Come on, we can do better than that. Let's go standing ovation. Come on. Standing ovation. Come on. We are proud in West Virginia of our history. Now, where did Mr. Jones right here? I want to thank you, brother. I want to thank you for coming back. I want to thank you for the 100 years. You are truly a West Virginia hero. Brother Jones. I just want to take about 5 minutes and just mention why we had this happen 92 years ago. Because in those days, coal miners lived in company houses, in company towns, and got paid in company strip. They went to schools paid for by the coal companies. They got paid with company money, and the police force was most of the time owned by the companies. And if they went to church, they heard a company preacher. And guess what? They worked 16-hour days in some of the most deplorable, dangerous conditions imaginable. Then after working 16-hour days, they got paid by the ton, and the check waving who weighed the coal of the UMWA. The UMWA moved into West Virginia in the early 1900s. The first battles were in 1912, 1913 on Cabin Creek and Pay Creek. And that's where we can find the Baldwin Felt Studs for the first time. That's where we find Mother Jones coming to Cabin Creek and Pay Creek. And that was the first time that working folks stood up politically and made a demand on their government to recognize the right of the UMWA and coal miners to be paid fairly, to have a safe working place, to be able to come home every night to their kids and their wives after 16 hours. But power is not relinquished without a struggle. That strike in 1912 and 1913 was considered by many a failure. And then the UMWA moved into this area. Now this was about 8 years later, and almost no one was for the UMWA. No one wanted to be for the coal miners. No one wanted to stand with the coal miners because the coal industry owned everything. But there was an exception to that. The first political leader we had in this part of the country was Sid Hatfield, who said, I'm going to stand with my friends who work in these coal mines. The industry said, Sid, here's $430 every month. You let us put a machine gun, run the union out of Matewan. He said, keep the money. He stood with the coal miners. And that is why Sid died right here. Part of this effort to get rid of the union was evictions from homes. Part of the effort to get rid of the union was yelling of coal mine leaders in this area. Part of this was people being driven right out of their homes and right out of the area. People lived in tents to stand up for the union. And this shootout here wasn't just a shootout. This was a fight for what we all have today. If you've got health care, if you've got a safe working place, if you've got a decent wage, you should thank those who came right here and died and shed their blood in the streets of Matewan, because they helped build the middle class. We all know that those who were arrested for this shootout from the union got found innocent, mainly because the jury said, well, they had it coming. And that's why they found them innocent. But we don't know sometimes wife, Ed Chambers' wife, covered his body and said, please don't shoot him again. Please don't shoot him again. And they just shot him one more time. They brought those two bodies right here. And there were thousands of people that carried those coffins to the cemetery. And they buried them. And over at the cemetery, right on the Kentucky side, the General Counsel of District 17 gave the eulogy for Sid Hatfield and Ed Chambers. And it started to rain. The General Counsel looked to the sky and he said, even the heavens weep today. So Ed Chambers and Sid Hatfield, those who fought here, the next thing that happened was the Blair Mountain March, when 10,000 coal miners stood up to avenge the death of Sid Hatfield and Ed Chambers. And we must preserve the history of that march as well as the history today. I close by saying, thank you, Matewan. Thank you, performers. Thank you, Donna. God bless the town of Matewan for what you do.
For the introduction.
Justin, we didn't forget you. We know that you're a loose member of the delegate force, and her people like, come up here and get your Matewan throw. We've been trying to get you in front of this audience for a lot of years. Now this man is absolutely a treasure that we have. Justin, come on up so everybody can see that pretty face. Come on up as our other delegate. I love you.
Let me tell you something. When Donna calls you, she will not go away. She doesn't understand what no means, and she just wears me out. And I think she called me at least 6 times to make sure I was going to be here today. And she says, I'm not going to let you get through this every time I come over to you. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you do for Matewan and for the performance and continue on to work. And I talked to Congress Secretary Hall. Some things that change. I'll get you that next week.
Thank you all so much. Justin, welcome. We'll be aggravating you next. Okay, we need to clear the streets. You are, folks over here, you are in the set area, the staging area, so I'm so sorry, but can we find the cubby hole to stick all of you off somewhere? It's going to get Matewan, and that's Ted Hackney. Thank you, Ted. My regular here now, Joe Palmer, Vice President. And I gotta tell you folks, he listens to me preach that sermon every time I talk to him about wanting that everything. And First Lady and Congressman, I'm gonna preach a little bit longer. We want to see an amphitheater in Matewan, and that's our goal. The other goal that we have is to teach as many young people as we can our local history in this whole region. So I call him up and he listens to my sermons, and I hear that he tells some of the other boys in Local 1440, boy, she's a talker, isn't she? So you've been had. But welcome, Joe Carter, back to Matewan. President Roberts, you know you're welcome. If he's going to give you a formal introduction, you just hang on.
Thank you, Don. And you know, indeed, it is a privilege to come back here to Matewan again. The only reason that the Queen Anger is not sitting up here is because Donna had a medal here. But I do want to take a moment to thank this local 1440, for all that they do too. They help support her and be a part of this. And, it's really a good event. And we do need to relive our history and know where we came from. The miner's been struggling for over 120 some years. United Mine Workers have been trying to strive for better working conditions, health and safety.